Hello everybody, my name is Andy Yardley. Welcome back to my channel. I know I sound terrible because I'm having allergies. Where I live, there's so much pollen everywhere, so I sound kind of scratchy. That's okay, because today we're going to get into something that is just as bad as allergies, if not worse, and that's Netflix's adaptation of Resident Evil. Boy, is it a bad one. As many of you may know, Resident Evil has had a place in many video game players' hearts. From the first couple of games to Resident Evil Code Veronica to the critically acclaimed and wildly successful Resident Evil Biohazard and Resident Evil Village, the two newest games in the franchise. Now that's not to say that this video game franchise hasn't had some bad moments. Resident Evil 6 goes down as one of the worst Resident Evil games, whereas Resident Evil 4 goes down as one of its best. So what happens when you have video game series that is both has its ups and downs, critically acclaimed to critically bomb, to something that Netflix gets its hands on? Well, you get something that is more attuned to Resident Evil 6 and not something that's like Resident Evil 4. It's awful. I was actually, when this show first came out, I was actually very excited. I thought it would have maybe a little bit of a different take, stray slightly from the games a little bit, and try to be its own thing. But it was just not good. And actually, the way that this show starts off, the first 4 episodes are actually not that bad. It kind of goes this little bit of a slow burn, as the characters kind of going back and forth between flashbacks and real time. And I really like the actor that plays Albert Wesker. It's an African American man by the name of Lance Reddick. And he's one of the best parts of the whole show is him, and he does a great job playing his role the way he plays it. However, that's the only good things I have to say. The first 4 episodes were good-ish, and he does a really good job as Albert Wesker. And yeah, that's pretty much what's good about the Resident Evil show. Now let's get into the rest of it. So now the rest of the show. It had lots of problems. About halfway through, about episode 4 or 5, I guess there was some sort of writer-director change, and man is it noticeable. Whereas the first original few writers-directors were going for a nice slow burn leading up to something big or whatever it may be. They kind of really set the stage. The other half of the show is just bonkers. It's just crazy. Before we get into that, a couple things I want to note is the pacing started off good, and then by episode 4, episode 5, it just the pacing goes out the window. I was really disappointed because it started off really good. Secondly is the special effects. My gosh, these special effects are just bad. Now, some of the more practical effects look pretty good, I will say, but some of the stuff for the zombies, the blood and mutations and things like that, it's subpar. It's like early 2010s, just bad CGI. That's all that it is. It's really bad. And I was disappointed because it started off, it looked like it'd be one of those shows that relied heavily on practical effects, which I think would have been great. It would have been really good to see a lot of practical effects in a Resident Evil show. I think it would have thrived. But they in the later episodes, they relied heavily on CGI, on computer generated effects, and it was just not good. Another thing, getting back into the writing. Episode 5 is where it started to lose me. They had, you know, spoilers ahead, just to warn you. There's some spoilers if you haven't seen it, which if you're not going to watch it, then that's fine. I don't necessarily recommend it, but just in case you want to check it out for yourself, spoilers. In about episode 5, they introduce about 3 or 4 Albert Wesker clones. And that's where it starts losing me. They were clones of the original Albert Wesker who were working on something for Umbrella, and it just didn't make any sense. They brought in the character of Bert, which was just another clone of Lance Reddick, his character, who was, a little unhinged and kind of crazy, but he had good intentions, and it just didn't work. That plot line just didn't work, and the ending didn't make sense either. A lot of the things they said didn't make sense. Characters would talk about how another character was dead or that they had died, but now they're become one of the main villains of the show. Like I think it was the main character is Albert Wesker's one of Albert Wesker's daughters. By the way, her name is Jade Wesker. I can't stand her character at all. Her character is pretty much just, I'm gonna mess up, but somehow I'll survive, and hopefully people will forgive me. And I hate characters like that. I hate characters that just continually mess up, don't learn anything from their mistakes, and then just expect for everyone to forgive them and do all this other stuff. And the older version of her character, of Jade, is a slightly better, I think, than the young version of her, the teenage version of her. The teenage version of Jade is just so annoying. It's just so bad. She does so many things, causes so many problems, and I hated it. I hated her character. And that's hard on a TV show. If you can't get into the main character, if you can't find some reason to support them or that they can be redeemed, it hurts the entire show. If you can't, find something good and redeeming about a character, it just becomes a problem. And unfortunately, it was a problem. It was a big problem for the show, I think. I will say there was a character that I did like, a couple of characters. I actually did like the other sister, Billy. I thought her storyline was a lot more interesting, and I think if and they did put a lot of focus on her. They put a lot of focus on her in the first few episodes, but then her stuff kind of started getting crazy too. One of the main villains, her name's Evelyn. She's like the new CEO of the Umbrella Corporation. She kind of makes for an interesting villain up until toward the end, and then she kind of becomes a little bit more generic. And the thing is like, I feel like this show has so many things going for it, like it has all the right stuff there. The casting was pretty good, I think, in terms of the look and the feel of the show. I thought the casting was great. I actually think they have a great casting, but they had directors and writers that didn't know what to do with Resident Evil. And I think that's unfortunate for Resident Evil, because it really was a good setup. I feel like if you go back, watch the first 4 episodes. The first 4 episodes are not that bad. Don't listen to all the like diehard fan people who say it's awful and terrible. The first 4 episodes are okay. It's the last 4 episodes that just go off the rails, and it's terrible. It's unfortunately terrible, because I think it had something going for it, and they just messed it up with bad directing, bad writing, and bad special effects, which you can't have in a Resident Evil show. You can't have bad special effects in a Resident Evil show. with all that being said, that brings us to the main problem, which is Netflix itself. Because Netflix has gotten into the habit of making just really, really bad adaptations, really bad shows, really bad movies, and it's Netflix is kind of becoming hit or miss. Like they just released a couple weeks ago around the same time that movie The Sea Beast by the people who made some Disney movies, and that movie has gotten rave reviews, and it looks beautiful and it looks fantastic. But then they come out with something with Resident Evil that has a lot of fans, that has a huge fan base, and they just butcher it. It's just been butchered for people who enjoy the video game franchise. And I will admit, like, I've only played a few Resident Evil games. I think I've played 4, I've played 5, and I've played... I haven't played any of the remakes, even though they look very good. I played 7. I played 4, 5, part of 6, turned it off because I hated it, and then I played 7, and it was good, and it was really good. And I understand why people are fans of these games, because they are good games. When done right, they are fantastic games. But with a TV show from someone that makes as much money as Netflix does, there should have been more time, more effort put into the directing, put into the writing, and it just wasn't, and it was a waste. I feel like Netflix wasted money on the show, and I don't necessarily feel bad for Netflix, but I wish they would get their crap together, because Netflix can make some good stuff. Just a few years ago, you had Claus, about the Santa Claus guy and the mailman who like delivers kids' mail to him, and he makes toys for them. That was from Netflix, and that was a fantastic movie. Then you had this one that just came out, The Sea Beast, and it looks fantastic, and I've heard it's fantastic. And then you have, Resident Evil, and something that should be fantastic, something that should be amazing, and it's just not. And it sucks. It sucks for fans of Resident Evil. It sucks for fans of, apocalyptic. It's a hard word. Dystopian. Let's just use that word. It's easier to say. Film of dystopian media. It's bad on the fans of zombie stuff, and it makes Netflix look like they don't care about their work. That they're just trying to pump out as much stuff as possible. That it's quantity over quality in some areas, and that's sad. I hate to see that, because they can't make good stuff, and Resident Evil should have been good, and it wasn't. So my final thoughts on this show: if you never played the games, if you don't really know much about Resident Evil, it's okay. And it's an okay watch. At least the first 4 episodes are. And if you're a fan of Resident Evil, don't watch it. You'll just be heartbroken, you'll be upset. And for someone like me, who's just kind of a casual Resident Evil player, it's one of those where, again, it started off great and then it just got bad. So I'm hoping that Netflix, which they probably won't, but I'm hoping that Netflix will learn from this and make better stuff in the future. I can only hope. I'm really worried about some of their future adaptations, like the live action Last Airbender that's coming out. That one worries me a lot. I'm worried that it's not going to be good at all. But we'll save that for a later video. Thank you all so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, leave a like and subscribe. Check out some of my other videos that are up. For those of you who don't follow me or have not subscribed to me yet, I try to post every Tuesday, every Thursday. And check me on some of my other social medias down in the description below. And I'll see you next time.